We know this.
He is a
Good
bunny for sure.
morning, everybody. How is the staff?
Good
Good
morning. We're
morning.
good.
Everyone's good? Everyone had a good weekend?
Very
Okay,
good.
good. Because I don't really care that much. I'm just pretending I do because all I care about is helping people and getting to the content. As we know, we have a mission here to create happy, healthy, hopeful people. And so, what we've decided to do is not to be so self indulgent anymore, to talk about recipes and other things like that, valuable as it is. What we've decided to do is to just go straight into the content. So, you're all lucky I even said hello today. We do have a subject in mind. As a matter of fact, last week we were talking about the subject of back off, an extremely important subject, right? Back off is when we are inhibited, when we don't confront things as we should. And just as a quick reminder, when we started, I was thinking more about situations, right? Like people having back off from starting a program, for example, starting a weight loss program or starting some kind of an exercise regime or starting an important project in life. And then it kind of got twisted a little bit and it went into back off from other people, which I should have considered in the first place. But those are really kind of two different subjects in a lot of ways. And just so we get very clear about our content and about what we some of the reasons that people have back off is one is just misunderstanding. No one wants to confront something that they don't understand or that they're confused by. We see that on the program all the time. A person wants to start the program and then they get confused and then they tend to put it off, right? So another reason is past transgressions. If a person has in the past done 50 other weight loss programs and they each time they cheated, well, they don't want to keep committing transgressions. So that's another reason. A third is overwhelm. Jen, it's my philosophy, or it's my understanding, or it's my actually realization that these days there's so much coming at people that they are almost holding their hands up to block all new data.
Yeah.
Right. And then the fourth thing is self or other criticism. People can be remarkably self-critical. People can kind of internalize the criticisms from others. My tongue's not working well. And so as a result, we see that people will sometimes have back off because of their internal conversations. So these are four of the big reasons that people have back off. And this is all the bad news. But I have some good news, though. I have an announcement to make. I received a text this weekend that somebody was able to break through their back off and they are about to embark on a project that will change their lives.
Oh, no.
Now, this person, of course, is Jackie. So, and I take it she's the only one who's done this. So, Jackie, tell us all what you're about to do and how you came to the decision that you were going to go for it.
I signed up for a half marathon.
Oh.
October
A half marathon. Now, let me remind you, a full marathon, I believe, is 26.2
26.
miles.
Yes.
She did 13 miles.
Right?
Yeah.
13 miles. Jackie, you get cramps in your leg when you drive 13 miles. How are you going to run 13 miles?
This is true. Well, so it started with a friend of mine, actually. We were just all talking, and she's like, "Oh, I signed up for the Sandy Hook Half Marathon." I'm like, "Oh, wow, good for you." And I'm like, and I said to myself in this conversation was, I keep saying to myself, I want to get back to running. I used to run. I was never a good runner. I was never fast. I just did it just to do it. And it was also became something that I did with my mom. And I enjoyed doing it with her. It wasn't like, oh, I need to go for this run. There are people that are avid about it, right? But I was always active. And little by little, I just kind of got away from me. I actually ran while I was pregnant with both my kids. And then afterwards, I just kind of stopped. I would get up, I would do a little run jog, but I was, again, always active. So I was like, oh, she goes, yeah, you should do it. You should do it. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could jump into a half marathon. I'm like, that's extreme. I've only got 2 months. That's a lot.
Sure.
And then my other friend was like, you know what? I'm going to do it with you. Talking to our other friend, our mutual friend. She goes, the doctors told me that I'll never be able to run more than 3 miles. She had 2 knee replacements plus a revision. And she said her goal was for her 40th birthday when she just turned 40 this year, was that I want to be able to say, I did it, even if I'm not running it. I just want to be able to finish it and prove them wrong. So I was like, you know what, you're right. So she's like, do it with me. I was like, Jen, I can't, I can't commit to running a half marathon in 2 months. I would absolutely try. I'm not one to not try. So she goes, if I promise to speed walk / run, as long as we finish it together, let's do it. I said, you know what? When she put it that way, I was like, why not? I was like, I just want to finish it. That's it. It doesn't have to be perfect. I can't wait for that perfect time to be perfectly ready. What am I waiting for?
Well, Jen, let me ask you this though. What was the point at which you just changed your mind on this and said, okay, I'm going to do it?
When her honestly was like, as long as we finish, we just have to finish. And it just kind of clicked in my head where I was like, you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm always seeking for it to be done 100% correctly, 110%. If I'm giving my 110%, it doesn't matter. I'm doing it. I'm trying. Why am I waiting for it to possibly be perfect?
Well, wait, what were your expectations of perfection before you had that realization and came off of it?
So there were two things. One, I was concerned about my stamina, being able to just run, because I'm thinking in my mind running it. I'm only thinking running. Then when she started saying, let's just finish together, even if it's speed walking, I'm like, I was worried about timing, right? I'm like, with my luck, I'll be the last one picking up the cones. Like, come circle back around, come get me, you know? And that was it. And then this week
so was it a matter then that you had to hear something that could tell you could in fact do it?
You know what? I think it was the fact that someone who has a good reason to not do it or possibly not be able to finish it was like, well, what's holding me back? I have nothing. There's no reason why I can't run this or walk this or speed walk this or jog this.
Right. But so the pressure was on when you had, when you had the assumption that you would have to run it. That was a lot of pressure, and maybe you didn't think you could do it. But then when she said, well, I'm going to walk it and we'll just finish it together, is that what gave you enough of a realization that you could do it? Okay,
Absolutely.
Jen, do you see that, for example, in life or on the program? It's just that little shift when a person realizes they can execute something, and that gives them enough of an impetus to start.
Yeah, so we've had a few people recently who needed to be talked off the ledge, and two in particular that I could think of.
That's metaphorical, right?
Yes, I'm not I forget what they call the people who do that. There's actually a term for people who talk people off the ledge. But spending time and explaining, just having a conversation and giving them the reality that they need to stop listening to the voices outside of them and the voices inside of them telling them that they can't. And then just really giving them an explanation of what's going to happen. Like Jackie got a reality on how she could do it rather than how she couldn't.
Yep.
And I was thinking, like, right away when you said the doctors told her, like, who is anybody
right
to limit another person's abilities? That made I kept my face very calm, but I'm like, why would you do that? That's like telling somebody, oh, you're going to not survive or you're going to die.
Right.
And don't limit a person's capabilities.
Well, it sounds like Jackie's friend that it pissed her off, and that's what gave her the impetus to do it.
Good for her.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Trish, let me ask you, have you ever had a situation where there was something that you were sure that you couldn't do, but then you just got the idea in your head that maybe it's not so hard, maybe you could accomplish it?
Yeah, I think so.
Anything come to mind?
Not in particular, but even like down to the program, I will say that too. Like I had, been working there a little while already, and I decided to jump in, and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I could really do this. And then I wound up doing it, and here I am, much happier and, a lot lighter. So that's it. That's one thing. I'm sure there's many more that I've
But
done,
that's a big
that
thing,
was,
though, isn't it? Like people need
was.
to have an understanding that they can.
Yeah.
If you
Mhm.
perceive that you can't do something, who wants to knock their head against the wall?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Corinne, how about you? Are you the type? So it seems between Jackie and her friend, Jackie's friend was the kind that had to get pissed off. Someone said no to her. She's obviously uh, a very contrary type, and that was enough to push her, into doing it. Jackie, on the other hand, needed to hear that she would finish, that she didn't have to run and finish first, perhaps, that she wasn't going to enter the Olympics.
Yeah,
So
no.
which type are you? Are you the type that would be more willing to take action because somebody pissed you off and challenged you, or because you had the realization that you could do it?
It's more about the realization that I can do it, because
Okay.
I think for myself, sometimes I lack confidence that I can't do something.
Mm.
So, like, for example, when I first started working with you guys, I was way overweight, and it was like October, and I'm like, okay, January, I'm going to start the program. I'm going to start the program January.
Mhm.
And I was like very hesitant to do it. And Jackie was like, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You yourself, Dr. R, were like, you can do it. Jen too. And everybody made me realize like I can do this. And I felt like I didn't want to fail, but I didn't want to fail and let my team down also.
Hmm.
And as I did that, I grew and realized like, okay, well, there's so many foods that you can make, for example, that taste really good without feeling
fluff.
like you're missing out. And
Right.
those to me were like the biggest wins, because I still eat that way today. And I realize now, like after I did the program, like if I see the weight creeping back on and I see myself going in the wrong direction, like I quickly will get back on the, like like back on the
On
horse,
track.
shall you say?
Yeah.
And
Well, what's
you know,
interesting from what I'm hearing from you, Corinne, is that for each little barrier that you assumed would be there, you had to come up with a solution in your head. And once you were able to do that, whether it was the food or whether it was the organizational part of it, once you came up with these solutions and had the realization you could, then you were willing to take action, but not before.
right. I always need a solution. I need a plan on how I'm going to get from step A to
Right.
step B. Because if I don't have a plan, I just feel like I'm in a circle, like swimming, trying to get out, but I'm never going to get out.
Yeah. And you'll be lost. Right.
Mhm.
Now, let me ask you this. Is there another way we could have communicated to you your ability to do it other than just saying you can do it?
Well, like Jackie, like I know for myself, like when I start like a weight loss program, like when I start weight loss, I need accountability. So like even today when I start, I'm like, okay, Jackie, you're getting my weight every single day, whether
Mm.
you want it or not, you're getting it. To me, the most invaluable part of our program is the holding everybody accountable
Right.
and the support that we get.
Got it. So was the assumption in your head that even if you might not have been up to it, you would have enough support that could push you over the hump?
Yes, I need the
Interesting.
support.
Got it. Understood. Is that a big thing, Jen, as the coach, that you find that kind of makes the difference for people? Is it the understanding that, even if they're not up to it, they will be buttressed and pushed up by you, supported?
So, yes, to varying degrees, depending on the person. So, some people need more cheerleading, some people need more explanation, some people need more understanding, some people need less. So, it depends. And, it's not a one size fits all support system. I meet them where they are for the most part. So, some people take a lot more and some people take nothing.
Right.
And that's their own self-determinism.
Mhm.
I think a lot of it is we look for outside validation
Yep.
for who we are and what we can do. And the reality is, again, we're all at different points in this. Like every one of us and every client is at a different point. However, we have to know that all we ever need is in us. Like I love that quote from The Wizard of Oz. Like you've always had the power, my dear. You
Power,
just have to
yeah.
find it for yourself. I actually posted that on Facebook today. That is very apropos that you picked this.
Yeah.
So, I think the biggest, hold on, I'm going Give me 1 second because it's like so relevant. It's like
What are you
blowing
doing? You're asking for a timeout so you could Google something? Paraphrase.
my-
If I could just-
Out
If
so
I
that
can add to what Jen's saying though, but it's also part in like when she's saying she meets them where they need to be. Not everybody, sometimes Jen, you receive a compliment from a client. It's like, oh, thank you so much. And it, puts a little pep in your step. Or sometimes it also matters where it's coming from. So
Yeah.
I may receive compliments throughout the day for different things from people. And it's like, well, thank you. And it's appreciated. But sometimes it matters who's in your so-called, who's in your crayon box,
Yeah.
You want to hear from specific people. And it's not so much the validation, but it's like, it matters more from certain people you seek their approval. So I think that's why a lot of people are influenced by the outside.
Mhm.
Yes. However, we have to remember that seeking approval
Inside.
from the outside will
Yeah.
always leave us short no matter who it is, because as much as we want the
Absolutely.
approval from the people who we respect, then what it does is it gives us the flip side of being
100%.
affected by the people that we don't respect. So we always have to
Absolutely.
go, I said that it was what I posted with this was the greatest strength of any human being is to know who they are and what they are capable of. So remember who you are always. Like you are
Mhm.
enough
Yeah.
in yourself. So
And that in of itself, if a person can embody that, I mean that's the whole game right there.
Oh,
But
yeah.
one of the things that I'm thinking and realizing right now is that there is a perception if someone's about to start on any worthwhile kind of project that they want it to be easy. It's one of the great things about our program. Our program is easy. It's very structured. It doesn't take too much thinking. I have a mantra that I repeat all the time. I forbid you to think. Your
Really?
job is to execute, right? So what if we just decided to perceive anything we were about to do as easy? Can it be that simple?
Yeah,
it actually is.
it is.
It actually is. So no
Actually
matter
is.
what you're going to do, Jackie, it's a cakewalk. You can do it backwards. You can do it forward. You can walk on your hand those 13 miles. You can be like that one lady who did the New York Marathon who just ended up taking the subway.
Listen, don't laugh. Years ago, I do have a story, and I won't call out names in case my so-called friend is watching. We ran through Central Park. We did a race. I don't remember which one it was. And it wasn't super long. And we're running through, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I never did race before. And I'm looking through, and I'm like, where is she? And I lost it. It comes to the finish line. She's there. I was like, oh my God. Like, you totally, like, you beat us, not even beating, but you beat us. So apparently they took a cab. They did take a cab. They never told me until after the fact. And here I am, like, I was so impressed. I was like, you just killed it. I cannot believe what you just did,
Perfect example of why not to judge yourself by other people's examples.
Well, listen, and don't forget, and I say this all the time to everybody, including my kids, what's out there for you to see now that's right in your face is what people want you to see. And it's like, what do they call it? The flamingo, right? So they look calm and cool on top of the water, but their feet are pedaling
Yeah.
so quickly underwater. So, what we put out there, it's everything that people want you to see. It does not mean there's anything else going on back. But yeah, that's a good story. And I laughed because when she did come out and I was like, are you kidding? You let me sit there thinking I was so here I am doing race after race every week. And I'm like, here you are, come blowing out of the water the first time. You could have just told me the truth. At least tell me the truth.
I'm not sure about this, but I have the sense that anything that anybody ends up accomplishing is actually easy. The hard things are never accomplished. Now, is that true? Like, it just seems that in retrospect, whatever you were doing, no matter how hard it seemed at the time, was just a perception. And then afterwards, looking back, oh, yeah, I did X, Y, and Z.
I think so.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Except for maybe like
Mhm.
childbirth or something like that.
Well, we still keep doing it.
And people are
I mean,
gluttons.
that hard.
Really, people are gluttons.
I think that I agree though, because I feel like the truth is we are our own worst critic, right? Jen, your initial response, we were making fun of Dr. R. before this live. You're like, oh, I'm not going to put my leg up. My legs don't look good. Where immediately I do the same thing to
Wait,
myself.
if you're going to say something like that, there has to be some context. I mean, that
No,
just
no,
sounds
I
weird.
am content is inappropriate. I am not doing it. Jen thanks me. I'm not doing that to Jen. I'll do it to you.
You just said it. It just sounds so weird.
No, but I'm saying like there are things that we do that we doubt ourselves.
Yeah.
And we are our own worst critic. And even us, as much as we're giving the motivation to somebody else, we probably do it to ourselves 20 times a day without even realizing.
Right.
You know?
Mhm.
And
Well, here's what I want to challenge everyone to do. Everyone who's listening now, everyone who's going to be listening subsequently when we send this as a podcast audio, so you're in your cars, is just to perceive everything as being easy. No matter what you're doing, just bring to it a sense of ease. I guarantee you that the difficulty is mostly in the anticipation of how difficult things are going to be.
yes, absolutely.
Right? In the moment, generally things aren't that hard. And if they are, then afterwards they're not. It's just something that happened. When we started this pandemic, we thought it was going to be the hardest thing in the world, right? And it was a huge pain in the ass. But now in retrospect, it's just another thing that came and went.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
I've said this, I'm on record as saying this many, many times, both in person and also on Facebook. But I have never had a situation, with one exception that I'll share with you, where something that I was anticipating was going to be bad was as bad as my anticipation of it. And the one exception, Jen, remember?
It's poor Justin Bieber, who's now got Bell's palsy.
The Justin Bieber show was actually worse than I anticipated it being. It was painful, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I've still
That's
not
not
gotten
what
over it.
you were going to say.
I
Let it
took my-
go.
it doesn't
Let
matter.
it
This is the one thing that I've experienced. Nothing else was as bad. My father dying,
No, that is
breakup,
not true.
nothing. Justin Bieber was traumatic. I assure you. I was blackmailed emotionally into taking my niece to see the Biebs some years ago, and it was one of the most horrible experiences of my life.
Okay, I think you're being dramatic.
The closest I've come to suicide.
Hyperbole.
And
I agree with
apologize to-
Jackie. You're a
I
bit
apologize
dramatic,
to
Dr.
Justin.
R.
Yeah.
What?
I said I agree. I think that's a bit dramatic.
Hey, you weren't there. Listen, I apologize to Justin because, you know, he's a talented kid and whatever, but it was just a horrendous experience.
But
That's
can I
it.
ask a different question? Do you sometimes
Maybe.
feel
Can you
like
submit it in writing?
filter.
Go ahead.
so in order to break through sometimes do you think you have to fail in order to have that breakthrough? So you have to fail first and then realize, wait a second, I can do this.
Kids?
And I think that sometimes failure has to happen before you have a breakthrough.
What do we think about that?
I think like to certain like for this particular situation I'm relating to, I think there's a lot of self-doubt. So I started running this week and then I kept saying to myself, okay, well, I want to get around 3 times. 3 times, even if 2 are speed walking, 1 lap around. I ran and in my head, I was overthinking it so much. And I was like, I just have to get around. I just have to get around at this pace. I'm watching my pace and I just have to get around. I just have to make it here. And then I'm seeing one house after them, like, okay, right by, and I started saying, oh, well, here comes the mailbox because I'm thinking there's an end to it. So I feel like in the past where it was, I didn't have a real plan and I didn't do as well as I wanted to be. I know it was, it made the process harder. So it felt like a struggle. So I can't say it was a fail, but I wasn't fully prepared. So I think it's, you overthink things.
I actually have the correct answer to this, but I'm trying to be democratic. So are there any other people who want to respond?
Jen.
I think the answer is no. I think if you set yourself up with the expectation that you have to fail first at anything, you're going to fail. And I think that the accumulation of too many failures actually lessen your ability to succeed, because eventually you keep hitting the same brick wall because you're failing and it stops you from proceeding in life. So it's like too many losses. Failures are losses and they build up. It's like, you start off with this pristine snowball and you roll it down the hill and it collects debris and leaves and twigs. And by the time it gets to the bottom, it's like got so much crap in it, you don't even recognize it for the snowball it was. So, we can't perceive everything in life as failures. We have to push through and don't
Learning
anticipate them.
experience too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just
Don't
because you do
anticipate
bad
them.
at one thing, you can't stay here.
Mhm.
So because you do bad or something is not ideal. I don't even want to say bad because I feel like that's putting us on another level too. Not everything is a perfect success, but it doesn't mean it's not a step forward towards something bigger. So you not doing well now does not mean that you've now failed and that's it. That's the bottom of the barrel for you.
Right.
And this leads to my answer, and the answer is it depends.
Mm.
It depends how you frame the failure.
How you perceive it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you interpret it as a lesson, if you can just get rid of all the emotional charge about it,
Mhm.
then it's experience.
It's
Right.
If
also
not, then it can crush you.
it's also okay to recognize that if you start out on something, that not everything is meant to be completed. So, for example, people who have stubbornness about staying in bad situations, right?
Sure.
They're fixed in that situation because they have to complete or they have to finish it because otherwise it's a failure. Sometimes it's actually a success to step out of the bad situation. Like I think of people in abusive relationships. It's not a failure to walk away from that. It's actually salvation. It's it's survival. So you have to kind of, like Dr. R said, you have to change your perception of what a failure is versus what a win is.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And this is something that, the greatest athletes really understand. Because if you just look at baseball, and I know you guys relate everything to baseball, if you fail 7 out of 10 times at bat, and you do that over a career, you're a Hall of Famer. Right? We have this assumption. We have a lot of crazy assumptions as human beings. And maybe they're not always crazy, but sometimes they're uninformed. Like on the program, everyone assumes that weight loss is linear and consistent, and it's simply not. And that can make them crazy when they step on the scale and they're plateaued.
Yeah.
Right? So, another assumption that we have is about failure, is about that we're supposed to succeed every time.
Right.
There has never been anything worthwhile that hasn't had some small amount of failure. And the greatest successes had the most and greatest failures. And there are myriad stories about this, whether it be Colonel Sanders going to over 1,000 different people to show them his recipe for chicken and getting told no. Abe Lincoln failed at everything in his life before he became the president. There are so many stories about this. So again, it is how we interpret that failure. It's not how many times we fall down. Oh, this is so cliche.
It's how many times you stand
How many
up.
times we get up. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So I think on that unoriginal trite comment, we should probably end it here. Is there anything else that anyone feels is important to say right now to kind of cap off this conversation?
Just remember your wins and keep working for them.
Good. Yeah. Well
Right.
done on that. Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome.
What else?
I say the opposite ends. Like, remember why you're starting. Why do you want this so bad?
Got it. Yeah. Don't lose that why, right?
Don't lose the why.
Okay. Cool. And I
Thank
got to tell
you.
you
Sorry, that
something.
was Marissa.
Yeah. I assumed. I didn't think it was your husband. But, it's funny, just very quickly on that before we say goodbye. We had that conversation last week as a staff. I mean, you have to take the win, no matter how small it is.
Absolutely.
People have it set up in their minds that, they haven't won until they've made $1 million.
Yeah.
Or forget about, the fact that maybe they did better this year than last year. You have to take those wins. Those wins become a foundation that you can build on. They become a ladder. And you have to minimize the losses also, so they're not crushing and they need to be reframed. So I think that's a good note to end on. We will see everyone again next week. And I look forward to it.
Awesome.
Hey,
Bye, guys. Have a good week.
have a great week.
Have a great
Take
week.
care.
Bye.
Bye.